to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell. For those of you watching live, I apologize if there's some drop frames. I'm having a little bit of internet issues, but I am recording this locally, and we'll push it up to YouTube when it is done, so that way there's no choppiness. Plus, you can always find us at trinityforcenetwork.com, and you can go ahead and download the MP3 there. iTunes, Android, Google Play, Stitcher, whatever. We're out there in a whole different bunch of podcast apps. If you have one that you listen to and we're not in, send it over to feedback at trinityforcepodcast.com, and we will take a look at it. So I'm joined by Dom, Vrail, and Moon on tonight's episode. Dom comes back a married man. First podcast as a married man. Congratulations, Dom. One more time. Spotlight's going to be on you right there.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, everybody. A few of you wished support, congrats, and all that type of stuff over the weekend. That was real nice. It was a fun time. It's a fun time.
And now that it's all over,
I wouldn't have been here had we recorded the show yesterday. So, like, selfishly, I'm kind of glad it got pushed today. I know you don't like going off schedule like that, but selfishly, I'm glad we got delayed again.
I think at this point, we're probably going to have to start delaying the show until Tuesdays anyway, just because it seems like everybody's got something going on Mondays and no one can make it ever. So it's either a one-man show or it's we kind of throw people together and make it work. But hey, that's not going to stop us from putting 2 shows out a week for you guys. We've been doing this for too many goddamn years, and at this point, it's just weird to stop. I think about that a lot. Like, these guys get 2 episodes a week, right? And most podcasts do 1 episode a week, assuming it's not telling a tale or whatever it may be. And, like, at this point, even with as much information as we throw at you, I never feel like we don't have something to talk about or we can't find something to talk about. And I couldn't imagine just doing 1 show a week and trying to make that work at this point. I feel like we've just, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, just having a little retrospective there. But about 2 shows a week, so... Anyway.
There'd be too much to talk about if we dropped it down to just 1 week full time. We could probably like mix in a few more 1 show weeks here and there if we wanted to and be okay, but 2's working.
Kind of like we did a few weeks ago. And that's right. And you know, that works. But so we're going to jump in to talk about some League of Legends discussion as we always do on this podcast. I do have a weekly challenge for all of you out there. And, you know, after watching a couple replay reviews, I sent one off to Vrail, and I kind of watched over his when he sent it back over, and I've been paying attention. I watched Wrecker play some games the other day and just spectating him. I noticed a lot of you don't listen to, like, the very basic feedback we give you. And I don't know if that's because you don't want to go practice it or whatever it is. So your weekly challenge is actually to go into practice mode at least twice this week and spend 10 minutes auto attack moving. That's the one I see most people not do. They'll just stand there and auto attack a minion until it dies, or they'll just kind of stand there and auto attack and not move around. But you should be auto attacking and then moving back and forth a couple times and then auto attacking again. Every time you auto attack, you should always be moving. Keep those fingers fresh and hot and going. Even melee champs do it. So,
A lot of players, it's not just like Bronze 5 players. You will see this up well into Plat. I can't speak necessarily to the Diamond because most of my games there are in Flex Queue, or not necessarily Diamond, but against Diamond players are in Flex Queue. But like you definitely you'll see players of all ranks doing this, and it's a really bad habit.
Yeah, unless you're like Kog'Maw with a Lulu, you got to move a little bit. You can't just stand there and hope to get away with it.
And it doesn't only help you in lane, right? Like, one of the things people will cite, like, well, you're moving because you're trying to be harder to hit with attacks, like skill shots, whatever it is. But you should be doing that the entirety of the game, because that becomes more appropriate later on in team fights and whatnot, because you're making a lot of little side steps and adjustments in team fights to prevent you from getting hit by those bigger spells. If you're not doing it through the course of the game, your fingers are not going to be warmed up enough to allow you to have those quick reactions as the game goes on. As well, if you're always moving, it makes you harder to hit, and you'll get in such a habit of moving around that even in team fights you won't notice you're doing it, but you're actually repositioning yourself. So as you're practicing this with your weekly challenge, pretend that minion that you're auto-attacking might be an enemy, and maybe think, all right, well, this enemy could shoot a skill shot here, so if I dodge left or right, they're not going to hit me. You kind of get the idea. You know, you can't play it against bots, but you could walk in and you could pull a target dummy down, and you could walk all the way around and attack and start doing a circle around the auto-attack dummy for 2 minutes, just to get used to your fingers moving. But, you know, figure out how it works best for you and get in there and do that, because it's really, really important to be moving a lot in this game.
Even like moving between auto attacks as a melee is really important. A lot of melee characters who auto attack a lot, like Jax, Aurelia, Trinity, when they don't move in between autos, like while they're waiting for that cycle to come so they can actually attack again, you end up getting kited significantly harder, and you lose out on damage.
You can always tell when people are just right click on a champion and then expect their champion to like follow along and do all their damage and everything that they're supposed to do. Like you don't have to do anything else after you have started your auto attack, and that's not the case.
Yeah, when your movement's really
easiest. Go ahead.
When your movement's really predictable, like that's a bad thing, right? Because then it takes the difficulty in landing skill shots out for the enemy if you're too predictable. So,
and in some cases, like, it opens you up to just being hit by other auto attacks because you're not moving, and so then they get to go. They don't have to reposition, and they can like get closer. They can hit you with an auto attack, and then they can back away, and you can't do anything about it because you are just expecting the game to play itself for you.
Yeah, no game's going to play itself for you. It's the same thing they talk about if you're playing a first-person shooter or even StarCraft, right? You see the StarCraft guys, they're always pushing buttons. If you ever watch LS play, he's always hitting escape. And it's really annoying to watch, but he's doing it to try to keep his fingers, keep his fingers fresh and moving. Because in like StarCraft, you always have to be, they talk about APM, and APM does matter for League of Legends because it does allow you to move around more quickly through the battlefield and get your mouse where it needs to be, at. So. Yeah, go out there and practice that, guys. That's your weekly challenge for this week. We'll talk about it again on Wednesday as well. But I wanted to jump into some more other discussion, and I entitled this one "Pump Your Brakes," because it was inspired by a couple games I've had in the last couple of weeks where it just seems like people like to run to lane and die. And I see that really what this also goes off of is we have a couple listener questions where people are like, I'm in bronze, and people just keep running down the lane, and they keep getting in fights, and they keep getting in fights, and they keep getting in fights, and the game just, snowballs out of control. Or people just really make bad decisions, and they run the lane, and they don't pay attention to where the enemy is, and they die. And I think we all just need to take a moment to talk about pumping the brakes and why it's important to, have the overarching look on the map and understand why sometimes it's okay to just kind of step back and farm under the turret, even 20 minutes into the game.
I think it's kind of easy to understand how people can get in that mindset, especially early on in the season when ranks have reset and most people are lower than they ended last season. So a lot of people feel really confident when they enter their matches, and they think like, oh, I ended, gold 5 and I'm in silver 3 right now. These next games should be easy. And to where if they die, they don't feel like maybe they got outplayed. Maybe they feel like they got unlucky, or maybe it was, jungler interference or something like that. Maybe a misplay. So they get it in their head to where like, it doesn't matter that I'm behind now. I can just go right back to lane and outplay him this time for sure. But it doesn't really work like that a lot of the time, because like a deficit is a deficit. And people tend to not respect that.
Yeah, I see it happen a lot with people who lose their towers. They'll end up going back to the lane. They'll die because they pushed up too far because they're not paying attention to how the minions are moving in the side lanes, and then they'll walk back to that lane again. Or they'll funnel into like this really long extended dragon fight, and that happens more often than low elo than it does other places, because I feel like the games I've watched, more people just kind of funnel in and they don't wait to set up for a dragon fight. They just kind of like, hey, we're just going to go and ram our faces in here and see what the fuck happens. But looking at your mini map really probably should be a weekly challenge. I'm pretty sure we did that last year, right? Look at your mini map every couple seconds.
We've definitely done that.
Did we ever do death timers? I don't think we ever did a weekly challenge look at death timers.
No, I don't think so.
That's a good one for next week. Write that down. Someone write that down. I'm going to write that down.
You write that down.
Look at death timers. You hear this weekly challenge. All right. So, yeah, that's going to be next week's weekly challenge. Let's look at death timers and make sure that we have a better understanding when people are going to return, so we don't do that Baron and get wiped because we all decided that we were going to ram our faces into the next objective instead of having an overarching look at the map. But that pump your
So this
brakes
is more like just be more aware of your surroundings, kind of what's going on in the game. Just an overall awareness that you need to be paying attention to what state the game is and how strong you actually are in relation to your opponents.
I'm recalling earlier, Todd, you were up against a Katarina top lane. And
like earlier today and so
yeah.
Yeah.
Presumably you forced her to recall, and then she teleported back, and then you just killed her.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what exactly the circumstances surrounding that are, but what could have possibly been going through her mind to make her think, okay, well, I'm back. Now it's time to try to kill this guy who just forced me to back, you know?
I didn't really give her a choice. I mean, I did run her a turret. But,
okay.
But at that point, you know,
I just dove her.
I mean, I was playing Trinity, so, you know, to put it in perspective, and, you know, and it was Cat, and she, you know, she had just burned Flash, and I still had Ignite up. So I was just like, and I was 2 levels up. She was like level 5, and I was 7 at that point. I was already ahead. So I was like just really significantly ahead.
It's just like, those are the things that I think of, and it's like people, you try to force something when you are so far behind, and that's the wrong decision, because odds are that is going to instead make it, you know, put you further behind. Like, you just have to figure out what it's going to take for you to start actually rolling, because it's going to be an item at that point, or item or levels, and either way, you're missing, you know, one or both of them, and just like relax and last hit.
Yeah, so the review I did had something like this happen where the mid laner had backed and gotten a tier, and then managed to kill the opposing mid laner, and then they were playing Orianna. They pushed the wave, and they just didn't back. They just hung out mid, waited for the next wave. They roamed top randomly, and then they came back mid. And then at that point, they had a Doran's ring, a tier, and no potions, and were almost full health. But then the enemy Yasuo came back and had a Doran's blade, 3 long swords, and refillable pot. And then, so even though the Orianna was ahead in gold and experience, she had used her ultimate to kill the Yasuo. She was actually weaker at that point, and she kept playing like she was ahead, and then ended up having to blow her flash to get away. Where if she had just backed originally and spent her gold, she would have been in a lot more powerful position. She as in the champion. I don't know if the person was a guy or a girl.
Sure.
We do that a lot. It's usually gender of the champ.
Yeah, I'm thinking. See, that's a really good spot, and I see that happen a lot. And I'll do this from time to time, where you'll walk back to lane and you think you're paying attention, or you run because you're trying to help somebody else out, and then you put yourself in a really bad position because you stay a little too long to help out somebody with their fight, right? Like I'm playing Veigar. I'm walking. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna drop my cage for this person so they can get out of the fight, and then they stay and they fight. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna fight this, and maybe we can turn around, and made the bad decision, because really I should have just gone with my number 1 decision. I don't think it's ever bad to, well, I won't say it's ever bad. I don't think it's sometimes bad to just leave people, right? Like, you're a support. You go in, you headbutt somebody away, and you stomp somebody, and you blow your ult, and you're stunning, and suddenly, like, the team fight's going wrong. You're just like, fuck it, I'm out, and you just walk out of the fight, back to your base.
Yes, sometimes Dom saves me from death, and then he's about to die for it, and I feel obligated to try and help him now, and it usually just gets us both killed.
More often than not, like I'm inclined, like I'm willing to throw my life away if a carry's life, you know, will be saved as a result. And I've gotten better over the years at like recognizing when I can, you know, I can trade my life for somebody else's, and we'll be okay with that. Versus when me going in is just going to result in both of us getting killed. Like, it's taken time, and the you know, especially in solo queue, my teammates don't always agree with that, but there are a number of times where it's just like, no, if I went in, all that was going to happen is we were both going to die. So you got caught, and that's on you, and I couldn't save you. But like, Todd, I've seen you run out of so much crazy shit that I know I can usually, like, when it looks like it's certain doom, I know I can usually throw myself in there and sort of like get you out. And especially when you're on like a killing spree or something like that, that's a total worthwhile trade. Like, they're going to get 75 gold for killing me the umpteenth time because I'm the support. And whereas like, they're not going to and you're still on the map. You can split push, you can contest the next objective, that type of stuff. Like it's a worthwhile trade in that regard.
There have been times too, though, where like it hasn't worked out for us, and
sure.
like you've tried to save me and we both die. So like there's still some risk there. So I guess it's like depending on the situation, like Dom said, maybe if the person's on a killing spree and there's a lot of global gold at stake, maybe it's worth attempting to save. But sometimes you still just have to let them go.
Yeah, I mean that just comes with playing more. Once you realize when you can make a save or when you just need to cut your losses and get out of dodge.
So, a question for you guys. It doesn't really have to pertain to this, but for some reason it reminded me. If you're playing a champion, I guess Todd is the only person here that can answer this because he doesn't play ranged champions or champions with any kind of CC.
Hell no, I don't play ranged heroes.
If you guys are playing a champion and you miss some kind of ability, right? Do you ever question mark ping your own self so the enemy team doesn't get mad? Random, I know.
Oh, so you mean your team?
Yeah, right. Like I'm playing Jin, and I completely put my W behind me, and I meant to put it in front of me, and then I just question mark ping myself. Don't worry, I know I fucked up.
I quickly type yikes and then just move on.
Yeah, I'll usually quick type oops or something. Just like I am acknowledging that I screwed up there, and we can have an argument about it if you really want to. And in those situations, like I'm not going to say anything, but like I just quick acknowledge that, like, hey, yeah, I fucked up, and let's just like, hey, let's move fast.
I shouldn't be using the question mark pig, but I think I try to use it sarcastically. Like, oops, I fucked up.
I don't like doing that. I don't like using the question mark ping because in theory, that's also communicating something to your side, like your mid and top laner or your jungler and something, and they will so they might quick like look at bot lane to try and figure out what's going on down there, or they might think somebody is missing now when they're really not, and so it might force them to play differently. I know the question mark has sort of taken on this.
It's
accusatory,
a BM tool for a lot of people,
yeah, but that's why I don't want to use it that way. It's like I'd still like to like the idea behind it as opposed to the way it is right now.
Dom's above the BM, you guys.
Usually.
Yeah, I'm never above the BM. Except for when I want to climb rank, then it's just mute everything, and then I don't have to worry.
It's not my role. It's not my way.
They added a Garen emote where he's like cheesing hard, so there's no way I can be above it.
Yo, I got
Bro,
the dabbing
I dab
penguin.
on everyone with the penguin. That thing's awesome.
I got the dabbing
Someone
penguin
misses
out of
something
a
in
crate. So I'm with you right there. I'm dabbing on everybody now. That was like the
I
worst
get a
dab
kill in
ever, but
lane.
we
I'm
tried.
dabbing. They miss a skill shot. I'm dabbing. Come on, that emote is so awesome. Or the one where the penguin's taking his hat off. Those two are my go-to.
What do I have? I have Snowfawn Poppy, who's just adorable. So it's kind of hard to to BM with that.
You should just BM your own lane.
You're just real cute. You're just real cute.
Yeah.
Instead.
I should play Poppy more is what I should do.
You should really pick up the BM and start missing pinging whenever they like fuck you over when you're trying to auto attack and get, like you're trying to use a relic shield. Just start just ping question mark ping the things. I have seen people use I have seen people use the pings, not necessarily question mark, but like an assist me ping and stuff to say I am going to auto attack this, like a Thresh, right? He's like I'm going to auto attack this cannon to get the relic shield proc.
Yeah, but I think if you're doing that, that's normally something you communicate early on. Like, if I ping this in lane, it means I'm going to do this. So, like, if I'm playing support, I tell my AD, if I'm targeting this person, that means we're going to do this. If X happens, like, I land my stun on Bard or something like that.
No, what you say is, I'm playing support, and I'm going all in all the time, and if you're not following me, then you're not doing it correctly. Because that's
one
what
way
you
to
told
go about it, I guess.
That's exactly what you told me. Like, what about 2 weeks ago when you told me that's how you play support? I play my own game, he says.
No, I abandoned my AD a lot. But I only abandoned them once they don't do what I tell them to do in lane. And I've just decided I'll help other people.
Sometimes we're just okay with sitting AFK farming, except for if I'm playing Jin, which, speaking of, just because I'm going to bring it back around and it's going to go off of this next question a bit, ever since the 8.5 changes to Jin, he actually feels really, really good to play again. I don't know if you've had a chance to play him, Vrail, but being able to bounce a Q off the back wave onto somebody into a W is awesome.
I have not played him since the buffs. I've just been kind of grinding ranked, so I haven't been confident enough to take him in there yet.
Yeah, so you heard.
But I might
one,
have to.
right?
I'll try. Maybe. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's just you heard the one, right? You bounce it off the back wave and then it lands on them, and then you try to W them. It's kind of, I find it harder to hit W closer range, even though it seems like it'd be easier to hit because people tend to dodge left and right more. I don't know what it is. It's just harder to hit when you're a little closer to the person than further away.
No, I know what you mean. Sometimes you get in your own head. Like the close, the up close Morgana bitings can sometimes be the hardest one to hit. It's just like, oh god, where are they gonna go? Where are they gonna go? Where are they go? And then you just throw it super wide because you were expecting a juke that didn't come.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm trying to figure out where they're gonna walk to, and then they don't walk, and I'm like, oh, well, I just played myself. That fucking feels shitty. Being able to W off of the ultimate with Jin also feels really, really good for a fight because I think Dom put it best: is Jin gets to pick his own fights, like through the ultimate. Or you.
No,
get to
I
start your own
didn't.
team
It was
fights.
either Beaver or
I think it was Beaver.
Was it?
yeah.
I thought it was you. I think it's your last person I heard it come from. But it's a really good way to put it. Like Jin makes his own fights, and a lot of times we'll be in the middle of a team. We'll be starting a team fight, and I'll just open up with my ultimate, and then I can W right off the last ultimate shot to keep them, from running away or whatever it is, and then whoever's playing can just do what they want with that person. But that is like a great quality of life buff for him. Plus, the Q damage is very noticeable going the mid game. With all that said, is he pick ban? Climb if you haven't played him? No. Because he's probably still 50% win rate. But I think any of the Jin mains should be really happy with these changes. Just throwing that out there for anybody who was wondering, because I've had a couple questions on Twitter about it. But that leads me into the nerf dilemma question. And I got a couple of these questions down below. Your main champion has been nerfed. So now what do you do? Do you keep playing them? Do you switch roles? How do you adapt in the face of the Riot nerf bat? And there's no better person here than Mr. Moon Maroon to talk about this, because he's the one that's been complaining the loudest.
Yeah, dude, I'm just really unhappy with Garen at the moment. Like they killed AD Garen with the season change. His damage not high enough anymore, and it doesn't feel like you can really solo carry games. It feels like finally all of the changes that they've added over the years to like slow down snowballing and make the game more team-oriented, more objective-oriented. It feels like they've finally accomplished their goal. But in doing so, people like me who started playing when the game was different kind of feel alienated at the moment. I don't really enjoy playing right now, to be honest.
No, I feel you. I've definitely was there a few weeks ago. And I think there's other things preventing me from really super enjoying the game right now, and I think for me it's different than you, but I understand because coming from a Jin perspective, he hasn't been great for a while now, and I can go and play the other champs and kind of hobble through ranked and whatnot, but I need that one champion that just clicks and I can carry with. And without that champion, it's just not fun to play the game. Like I don't mind losing on those games either, because I know I can just go in the next one and still have fun playing the champion. And I'd rather it be like a flat plane than an uphill struggle. I don't need it snowballing out of control where I'm winning all the time. I just would like to be on equal ground, and I'm really unhappy with the Riot's rune changes for a lot of those, because I feel like they're alienating is a good word, alienating a lot of champions because of them.
You were bringing up some interesting stuff prior to this show, Todd, about how it's like they are handpicking which bruisers and fighters they want to be able to succeed right now, and then they're otherwise just ignoring everybody else.
Yeah, so like the first instance of that is like right when the preseason changes landed, a handful of bruisers got buffed. And like of course, like Fiora is one of the examples, like one of the characters who gets buffed for sure without even taking a chance on seeing like where her win rate's gonna go. I believe she got buffed again. They've, sort of hand picked a couple of other characters here and there. Like they gave Darius 2 rounds of buffs now. I think Olaf has gotten buffed, not 2 patches in a row, but the last time they changed him, I believe, was a buff as well. I don't remember if it was this season or if it was late last season, but they're kind of like picking the few that they want to be good. They've kind of reverted some of the nerfs on like Shyvana, for example. But like, what about the other bruisers? Like, they helped Renekton like a little bit, but there's still like a bunch, like Garen, for example, or like Aurelia. They haven't. I don't really see Aurelia get picked or played. I mean, they've kind of like forgotten about her completely. I think they did give Jack some help, but he's kind of played out of the jungle more now than top. So he's kind of a weird example to use. But I don't know, man. It just feels weird. It just
They're doing shit like that now, right? Like Nocturne, who hasn't really seen a change. I think he saw a change at the end of last season somewhere, 3/4 of the way through, I want to say. I could be a little off there. But like now that Nocturne, he got a round of buffs last patch, and now he got another round of buffs coming this patch as well to like Paranoia. But why suddenly are we handpicking Nocturne out of all these, when we haven't seen Nocturne be played in quite a while? Where I do want an answer to that question. Where are like the Garen changes? Where are the other top lane bruisers that haven't really seen that many changes? Irelia changes, for example. Why aren't they touching her? Probably because they have a rework coming in the future for her. I know they mentioned that, but
like as soon as Jarvan started to see play again, instantly nerfed. Like Jarvan's not allowed to be good. Jarvan's an old character, he's not allowed to be good. We haven't reworked him yet. He's not allowed to be fun. Like, they don't help the old characters. They, like, only care about the new designs. It's really frustrating.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Are you at all optimistic about this this new keystone that they got coming?
I mean,
I got it in front of me if you want me to read what it does.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. And I like that there's, like, a melee-only aspect to it. I think what's probably going to happen is there's probably characters who can use it better than Garen. But it seems like it does seem strong for a good majority of melee characters. So that's a good step in the right direction in terms of trying to make melee bruiser stronger. However, I think that keystone's a little busted numerically. I don't really think it's balanced as it currently is.
I'll quick read it then. Yeah, the keystone is called Conqueror, and it will be in the precision tree, which in and of itself has some issues alongside it. But so here we go. After 4 seconds in combat, your first attack against an enemy champion grants you 10 to 50 attack damage based on level for 3 seconds and converts 20% of your damage to champions to true damage for the duration. Melee only. Damaging enemy champions refreshes this buff.
Yeah, so I mean, 10 to 50 AD, not that dramatic. 20% true damage for all your damage, that's pretty significant.
I do know what that does. That seems really not great.
Busted.
I feel
20%
like
true damage is going to be huge.
Yeah, I feel like that can make any character viable. So, like, will Garen be strong with that? Probably, but will other characters be even stronger than him? Probably. So
Well, it's after 4 seconds, so it's going to be more champions who want to be in long, drawn-out fights. So maybe not bursty people. Like Jor will probably be good on it.
But you can still prep it like Grasp of the Undying, where
you can do it off minions?
Yeah, you can still prep it. Okay. It just doesn't proc until so pretty much anybody can use it really. In lane phase at least.
I wonder if this will end up being really good for Jhin. I know he's in the ranged category and so he won't get the refresh, but he does a pretty good job of prepping damage, and his damage pattern is way more predictable as far as AD carries go. That and he gets so much bonus attack damage that converting 20% of his damage to true damage could end up being a really, really big deal.
I wonder if it's a big deal for his ultimate, because you could be 4 seconds in the combat, and then his last final ultimate shot could do an extra 20% true damage.
Well, I don't think it's extra 20%. I think like you take off 20% of your damage, but so basically 20% of your damage just ignores resistances.
I mean, like on paper, I like it because I don't think tanks are like necessarily quote unquote a problem, but I think that penetration items specifically for physical damage are kind of on the weak side, and I think that the attack speed items are a little bit overtuned as a result. And I think that making a penetration source more available is a good move for the game, I think. But I just hope that if a certain class of champions is too strong, I hope they don't just crush the keystone. I hope they consider, looking at it on a more broad spectrum and trying to make finer, smaller changes to the game. It never feels good when your character gets nerfed to the fucking ground because like they added something to the game, and like your one character is like the guy who can abuse it really hard. Nobody ever appreciates that.
A lot of these, I know that's a keystone, right? In there's a lot of gens out there right now taking fleet footwork, for example, to try to get some sustained lane. But like outside of that, if I'm going down the precision path, I kind of feel like there's times where I might want to go ahead and pick up, inspiration or sorcery or something like that. But I want to be able to unlock the bonus I get, and I know we've mentioned it before, but I wonder if that discussion is worth having. Is why, at what point do we go through all these? They keep adding these keystones. Does it just make sense to unlock the combined, power that you get? That's the one I'm looking for.
I think everybody on the show wants that at this point. I think all of the old hosts we've had on the show also want that at this point. Like, this is the most nonsensical decision that Riot has made, and for some reason they just keep sticking to it. They're like, they won't, just be like, okay, we were wrong. Let's unlock it. It's not too difficult for people to wrap their head around that level of selection or anything. It's okay for people to be able to take the runes they want with the stat bonuses they want, like they did with the masteries back in the day. So for some reason, this is the hill they want to die on.
It's like undoing the rune and mastery combo, though.
Is it though?
It would be separate them out again, basically.
And that's
you
fine,
can just
though.
still have it on the same page. You just add one more circle, and it's got and it's 3 stat combinations that you can pick from.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I think it would be good.
I see what you're saying when you say that it's like going back to the old system, and in a sense it is. But it wasn't like the old system was terrible. It just, you had to have money. You had to have time to be able to be competitive because you had to buy all the runes to be competitive or potentially be competitive, right? But since you're giving it to everybody already, there's no unequal footing. And I am going to make the argument that a large majority of players have no idea their stat bonuses from picking a secondary mastery tree or rune tree, because I go and I load in the matches and I see people picking really weird shit. I'm like, do you realize you're getting 60 AP for getting that, or 60 health for picking up resolve? Do you realize that you're not getting the attack speed you need when you're an ADC taking Dark Harvest? You're not picking up the right combination of things because you're missing out on so many stats that are not clearly labeled.
It kind of it forces every single role to take a certain, only look at a certain set of keystones, and because there are critical stats they need that the game was balanced around. It's not like they added 10% attack speed to every single AD carry, and they need that, or jungler for that matter. I mean, they added it for some junglers, but not all of them, and so that was causing problems earlier.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I'd like to see the reasoning behind it, and I'm sure it's gonna be one of those reasons I go, oh yeah, that makes sense, but I'm gonna need to hear it on paper, because I know Scarzone came on the show a while ago and years ago and told us one thing, a reason he should something in some way, and I went, I never thought of it from that angle. So I don't know. Maybe I should just email him and be like, tell me why. I'm sure somebody would tell me. But
Sotir might.
You know what? Sotir might. I haven't talked to that guy in a while, but I could send him an email. He'd answer. He's a good guy. I ate sushi with him. I ate an urchin, sea urchin. The sea urchin sat right there, and it moved in the plate the entire time. It was really weird. Anyway, we've got listener questions to get to for this next 20 minutes or so if we want to answer some of those. I hope you guys are down, because I know I am. Well, we've got one right here on right on the table. Josh writes in, are there places I should be warding where my early wards can be impactful and not get cleared easily? I feel like this is really important because when my jungler invade the enemy jungle, they don't have vision, but my enemies always seem to have it. I've lost a lot of games that started my jungler walking into a trap before level 6.
Before you say anything, Frail, we answered this in the Lost episode.
Oh, we did. It looked familiar.
Yeah, we answered this in the Lost episode. So Josh has not actually heard a response to us.
Josh is a great name, just so you know. It's a fantastic name.
I think something I want to start out with this is not where you should be placing wards, but rather the mindset that putting wards somewhere that aren't being cleared easily is necessarily a good thing. We've mentioned this previously, but I'll always go back to when we were playing the Vantage League, and we had Talanasti on our team. He placed a red ward deep into the enemy jungle, and he got yelled at by the coach for doing that. And he tried to defend it like well, the ward's there, I have the vision in the place, I know that person's never walking there. And the counter argument to that was, well, you should be moving your red ward around all around the map because you should be trying to get, more advantageous spots rather than that one place that you never fucking walk to the entire time. Like if you have a ward somewhere and it just sits there the entire game and never gets cleared, but no one ever walks by it, it doesn't really do you any good because you could be using that ward to either step ward in front of you or put it in places that potential fights are going to be happening at. So, with that said, I think that's like the mindset you should be going into here, along with where should I be placing my wards to help people get early vision.
I want to know where, like, what stage of the game he is talking about. Like before level 6, who's clearing wards? Like nobody has sweepers before level 6.
It's probably like, go ahead.
And especially with the removal of Tracker's Knife, like there's junglers might be more inclined to hold on to their yellow trinket now as opposed to getting a sweeper right away because like they don't have a Tracker's Knife as an option anymore.
It's possible. It's probably after the first back when you come back and you maybe have a pink ward, but even then they're gonna have to put the pink ward where they can see your vision. If like the best wards to protect your own jungle, mostly the mid and jungle will put them down. It's like a pink ward in the river brush, like in the middle of the river, or a ward.
Brush.
Sure, that one, yeah. Or like a ward that is covering the entrance towards mid lane by like Baron or by Dragon Pit going into whichever jungle. Those are like the best wards for early game, I think.
If you're trying to get vision of the enemy jungler so that your jungler can invade safely, then I think you probably need some deep wards. And like the best places to do that is like blue buff, the brush right behind red. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like people like to pink ward it in pro play a lot.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't get cleared very often, but it gives a lot of sight, but people don't walk through it much. Because like the buffs are like the hot spots, and they're right next to popular camps as well. The wolves and the wraiths are both pretty popular. So
my favorite ward spot right now is still basically the blasting cone that would otherwise allow you to like hop into the dragon pit. That's my favorite ward spot, at least if I'm on red side, because I drop it there and like I'm going to see the jungler coming unless they basically pull a lane gank, which happens less and less frequently these days. Like it just gives you so much great vision. Mid laner decides to roam down. I'm going to see them well in advance of them getting to tri-brush when they might actually be able to make something happen because we don't have time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have this idea that with their vision wards, they have to put them in brush, because they feel like they are not going to be getting the full benefit of them if they're not in the brush. And I think that's really, really inaccurate. Yes, it's better to put them in there, when you have all the time in the world or every opportunity, but there's still plenty of value in just a ward that is in a position that people are going to walk through.
Well, I think in mid lane, you only put it in the brush if that's the only place you can put it. Like that's like the worst place to put it in mid lane. You want to get it further out into their jungle or into the river, because it gives such limited vision if it's just in the brush and mid lane.
But like,
which is kind of what you're saying.
If you think about, so there's that brush behind red buff, and so let's say behind the blue team's red buff. I mean, it's this way on both sides. But so let's say you're on red side. Like you can walk all the way into the jungle and throw it into that brush, or you can run quick, just down towards that opening, throw the ward, like just right in that open space, and you'll still catch them doing raptors if you position it properly and everything, and that just comes with practice and everything. But you don't have to run all the way into the fucking jungle and then back and sort of waste that time, which could be, you could be doing something else with afterward. And that's all I mean is like there's this idea that you have to ward in the brush, and that's not accurate.
No, you get more vision in certain areas by warding outside of the brushes, because you can figure out where the person may be heading to and use that to your advantage. Like Vrail said, putting that, if you ward your side brushes in mid, you're not giving yourself enough time or information to be able to figure out where the enemy is, you don't give yourself enough time to react, is what I should say, because the enemy can just come barreling through there. Warding out by raptors or down the river a bit or whatever it may be gives you more information and more time to react to potential ganks, because you can see the enemy. You will always see the enemy come into the bush and leave the brush, because they'll have to come one way or the other and go by your ward to, leave the area. Unfortunately, bottom lane, the only one bottom lane really gets is, well, I guess you get behind, by dragon or in the middle of dragon, kind of like that try spot, but it's really hard to get up in there sometimes with the way the lanes push and move.
Yeah, bot lane, I mean, I think in the side lanes, you definitely have to ward in the brush a lot more. Like the river brush is valuable. And part of that's just, to me, there's an opportunity cost for running all the way up to dragon and dropping a ward down. Yes, that's the preferred ward, because A, you see them if they're doing dragon, and B, if they're running through the river, that gives you way more advanced notice. But that's a lot further that you have to run away, and so the river brush itself is fine in that regard. But otherwise, like, you're dropping a lot of wards in the lane itself because you don't want to lose zone control or give them zone control. And, like, you need to have that vision. I guess I don't know if that's true for top lane, but I know it's true for bot lane.
I know top lane can run further back. Like, if you're warding, you don't necessarily need to ward river. You'll be warding river more than likely, kind of like the Rift Herald pick.
That's because there are 3 spots to ward in top lane, so, like, what's the fucking point?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I personally ward the tri-bush most of the time because it gives vision of, like, 2 routes. It gives vision from where the golems are, or if they're coming from, like the other path. I don't know what you would call that, from the red buff, I guess. If like, depending on how pushed up you are, sometimes you want the ward in the river instead. But no matter how many wards you have, even if you have both yellows and the pink available, there's usually still at least one more path if you include down the lane available. So it's hard to have complete vision by yourself topside.
All right. I think it's good enough. Let's move on to the next question. Hopefully, Josh, your question actually gets answered this time, and it's in your ear holes.
It's my bad, and I am sorry.
He's not. Don't listen to him. Tom
I am
writes in,
sorry.
He's not. Do you have any tips for harassing in lane, especially with auto attacks? I'm a mid main, and I liked to play range controls, mages, and Corki. However, when I'm up against melee champions, mainly assassins, I find it difficult to properly push out of lane and state my dominance in early game when I should be strong. Any tips or things I should look out for?
Well, to answer that first part of his question, if you're trying to get extra auto attacks in, the best way to do that when you're trading is to follow up an auto attack with an ability. So, like, you auto attack first, then you use an ability, because most of the time abilities have, like, animation or something, and you can eat up the time between being able to auto attack next and the time you did in the first auto attack you just did, usually with the ability animation. That's like the general idea.
Yeah.
What?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm trying to.
Mostly, you just want to try and, so, like, mages and Corki, who plays a bit like a mage, into assassins, you're normally going to be stronger the first 3 levels before assassins have their full, like, complement of basic abilities. So, like, Zed, before he has his shadow, which sometimes is level 2, depending on the matchup. If it's range, he's probably going to shadow level 2. But you mostly just want to try and harass them when they're going for an auto to go for a last hit. So whether that's using an ability, you would need to time your abilities where you're hitting them and hitting the minions, so you can kind of farm both, which takes practice. But mostly it's just trying to auto attack them in a place where their range creeps won't target you, and you can hit them while they're auto attacking a minion, so they can't respond to you, especially because they're range. It just takes practice to learn how to properly abuse them.
There are a few different videos out there about this. What we're kind of talking about here is the trading stance. And I don't know how well spread that term is, but I know that that's kind of the term the community has settled on, at least the folks talking about this specific thing. And so there are a few different videos and like our summer school Reddit posts out there about this that you can go and, like, really get an in-depth answer about it, because we have done entire episodes on this topic in the past, and so we can't really do it justice right here for one listener question. But Vrail hit the essence of the concept on the head there. It's just, like, way, way, way nuanced after that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how strong you are. Like, maybe you had a bad early trade. It really depends on the matchup. So, because all the matchups are played differently, so like, you just need to practice pretty much.
I mean,
And learn.
it's good that you're acknowledging that this is something that you have trouble with, and like this is an area of deficiency for you and everything, because a lot of people don't even realize that this is what's causing them to lose so many laning phases.
It goes back to the weekly challenge this week. Is trading stance and auto attacking, because you have to auto attack and move in between auto attacks in order to properly trade and lane. And something we talked about it a little bit, probably 10 or 15 podcasts, I'd say about 10 podcasts ago at this point. Auto attacking and lane draws minion aggro, and if you're not properly auto attacking and using that minion aggro desync or whatever it is, through bushes, you're also potentially fucking your lane over. There's a whole sphere and universe of how to properly auto attack in lanes and not give up your lane. And I definitely recommend going out and Google and looking up trading stances and properly auto attacking enemy champions in lane, because they're going to give it more justice than we are, because there's going to be lots of examples for it. I guess we'll just answer the next question, then we'll go ahead and move on to Eclipse question. When playing against Evelyn, I know I should be placing control wards as often as I can. I generally end up placing upwards of 10 to 14 throughout a game against her as an ADC. But I find myself getting blown up in team fights no matter what I do. Right now, she's my permaban, but I don't want to have to use it on her all the time. What are you guys doing to handle Eve so I can add it to my play as well? I'm not.
I don't think she's
10
popular
to 14.
enough.
Yeah.
To be permanent.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just don't think she's popular enough to permaban her. I feel like you can ban other things, and like you might have her against you a few games, but I don't see her a lot where I would feel the need to ban her that much.
I can't remember the last time I've seen an Evelyn jungle in my game at all. And even then, like, if you're buying 10 to 14 control wards as a marksman, you're spending way too much money on control wards. I think the most I buy in a game is maybe 6 total.
So at a really high level, when you don't know where the jungler is, you pretty much play, if you're smart, like the jungler could be in your lane at any moment. So people tend to, save like their most defensive abilities so that they can escape if they need to. And since Eve is the stealth jungler, you basically don't have vision of her, so you know what I mean? And even if she's close, like, you don't know it. So you kind of have to just play like she could impact your lane at any time. If you're somebody who's laning. You say you're an ADC player, so you really just have to not be too greedy with your aggression. You have to, kind of dial it out a little bit at a time, not go all in until it's like more than for sure. Like, it has to be more than for sure, because if Eve shows up and it's suddenly a 3v2, you have to be far enough ahead already in that 2v2 to be able to win that what's now a 2v3. If you're not strong enough to do that, you should just play safer, because that's the only thing that can guarantee that you're not going to just get ganked.
You should definitely like be doing your best to just freeze the lane. She can still gank pretty well from the river, but if you're not pushed up at all, it's still a lot harder for her to get a good angle to get Allure off. And Allure has an incredible telegraph on it. So you might not know where she's coming from, but you know that she's coming to do something. And that gives you and your support the opportunity to take some type of action. And most supports have pretty good tools to deal with Evelyn. Janna deals with everybody because that's what she does, as does Lulu. Morgana would have Black Shield. Alistar can knock her away, knock her up. Tom Kench can just grab the 80 carry and run away. So, like, you need to play a little bit more cautiously and just respect Evelyn, I guess. But because if she's not killing you or the rest of your team, but if she's not killing you, then she's not building the lead that she needs to be super relevant as the game goes on.
Yeah. Evelyn's no Rengar, right? Like, she's sneaky in lane, and she can do quite a bit outside of lane, but she's no Rengar where she's like hopping right on top of you and insta-giving you. She does have a few moments where she has to do something, or to make it to an area that she can get to, especially in a team fight. And you know, if you're playing ADC, you're playing bottom lane, you're assuming you're level 4, she's level 6, and there's a lot of telltale signs with the way the enemy champions start playing if a jungler is going to be around, because a lot of times they'll start playing a little bit more up, not necessarily just, you know, straight run at you, but they might start playing a little more up. They might stay around a little longer than you think they are supposed to. Just watch those telltale signs as a marksman while you're in the laning phase, so you know when you need to start backing up. Do what Todd said, save some of those defensive cooldowns, and then use your support as bait. Like, just get ahead of your support so that they'll kill, like, that straggling dog, and then you get out of the fight, you know, free and clear.
You assholes.
Done that a number of times.
No, but it is what you're supposed to do. Like, there are a lot of times where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go down. Somebody was gonna die. It's better if it's me. You'll get back to lane. You need the gold. You know, all that. Like we talked about earlier.
Every time. I'm just laughing because every time this happens, I have this mental image of like dogs going after the weakest lane, you know, like the weakest little lamb that's like hobbling behind, because I'll flash ahead of the jungler. The enemies are coming from behind, the jungler's coming from the side. I just see Dom in the bush and they all like pounce on him, and I'm like, bye, Dom. I just keep walking. I'm like, well, yeah, I made it out. It's all right. All right, let's move on to the next one. Ganks be dank. They are dank. Ganks. I enjoy that. I'm gold 4. My main is Cho'Gath. Would it be wise to pick up a support item for gold income if I'm entirely zoned for my wave?
Solo laners?
I would say no. I would say call your jungle up to help you push it and then reset it.
If you're buying a support item, like because you're already because you're behind, it's not gonna help get you like caught up. Like you're waiting for like 30 minutes before you're actually getting kind of meaningful, or before you're gonna really see the dividends of that support item.
Yeah, if you're getting that, you gotta get it on. Well, you gotta get it when the game starts. And I tried that a couple of games when it was like, you know, pretty raw. I guess it's still in the same spot, I guess, right? It still gives ridiculous gold. I mean, it's okay, but you lose lane pressure. You know what I mean? In a way. If you're in like a super critically bad matchup and the stats that the support item gives are good for you, then like maybe. But honestly, I don't know. It seems like a strategy that's like niche.
Now I'm confused about how Cho'Gath is getting like zoned away from his wave entirely.
There's more to this question, but I just kind of hit the part of it. Basically, he had a game where a Shaco and a Darius were just camping the ever-living piss out of him and diving in.
Okay, so it's sort of a one-game response.
Right, but it was, you know, it was boiled down to, I should have boiled it down to, I am being camped, or I am being completely zoned for my wave because the enemies are doing everything they can to keep me down. Should I be buying a support item to supplement my gold income when I can't get any at all? The answer is still no, because like you said, I think what does it take, like 12 minutes to get 300 gold with a support item or something like that? Maybe a little bit more than that. It's not very much. It
depends on the item
income. And even then, yeah, you're not upgrading it significantly enough, and you're just dumping money into items that don't matter for you in the long run. Like, you just can't.
I mean, it was one thing when these upgraded into items with useful actives. But unless you really value warding such that you would like to have a warding item, like it's not going to get there for you anymore.
Right. I'd say if this scenario happens, you just kind of have to stand back and let the CS fall and let the experience fall, and hope that your team is able to take advantage of the fact that Shaco has been in your lane, or the enemy jungler has been in your lane for the last 20 minutes and not anywhere else, because that should allow your jungler to be everywhere else and get everyone else ahead. So meanwhile, you know, while you may be down, the same could be happening to the other people on the enemy team. And I'm going to kind of skip ahead with a listener question here. I know Dom doesn't like when I do.
Oh, that's fine.
Actually,
I mean, if you're playing Cho'Gath, you're going to be useful eventually, if you just don't die.
I mean, you're kind of useful always, just because you have a silence and a knockup in your kit. That's a lot of big and they're AOE crowd control abilities. It's not like it's a fucking one route and that's all you've got to offer here. You know, you've got big crowd control. So yeah, just like figure out how to get some defensive items, and then the only time you're screwed is if the rest of your team is also really low on damage or something. But even then, you have true damage that you're offering.
I thought I added this. I sighed there for a moment ago because I thought I added this question to the document, but I don't see it. Someone, a listener wrote in and gave his opinions on how to,
how to deal with trolls?
How to deal with trolls. Yes.
I yanked it because there wasn't a question.
Oh, I was going to talk about it. That's why I tossed it in there, but I realized I put it in the question section rather than this. But there was a point. There was some. That's why it's gone. See, now you got me all fucked up. I don't remember where the hell it's at. Any thoughts? No. Now I gotta
Got
go.
them all fucked up.
Damn straight.
You can't ruin Dom's perfectly organized document.
Yeah. To fuck with my document.
I found it. I'm gonna fuck with it all I want. God damn it. Where was I don't know where I was going with this. Forget it. Fuck it. I'll figure it out for next time. I was just started reading through the email and I was like, I don't remember my point. And you know what, Jedi Zeke, I appreciate you writing in and adding and supplementing the conversation we had about not feeding the trolls, which is essentially what your email said, and it was fantastic. The points you made were great. I was gonna go off and use it for this episode for something, but fuck it, I'm done. I need a beer. It's 7:55. We're gonna end this show 10 or 5 or 6 or 7 minutes early. So I'm fucking done. I think that's gonna be it. So Wednesday, Dom will be hosting the episode. You won't have me on. You'll have the other guys. And then next Monday, we're gonna have a Patreon subscriber on the show. So if we can get people around for next Monday, that'd be fantastic. He has some really good
Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I might have to talk to the guy. Be like, Tuesday might work better just because people are fucking terrible and they don't like to show up on Mondays. But it is what it is. All right, I'm gonna go get a beer, and then I'm gonna figure out the fuck's going on. So I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of the week and enjoy the rest of the other episode that comes out on Friday. And we will see you then. So everybody have a good evening. Peace.
Later.
Take it easy. Peace.
Later.